Hello, welcome to Stretford, Paddock. This is it. This is the big one, as Jay would say. But Jay's isn't here today, and instead we're joined by Alex Bagley for the Aston Villa preview. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
No one's any better than all right. So
No.
you're doing pretty well to be there.
Just about there.
I mean, speaking of just about there, let's just get straight into this because it's a massive game and it's a difficult game as well. But is it Erik ten Hag's final game? After the Tottenham game, we all heard these rumours, these reports. He's got these next two games to the international break to prove something. I never quite understood what that meant because let's say we'd won them. Oh, is he safe then? You can then lose to Brentford and Bodo Glimt and all that and you'll be fine. Probably not. But do you think that this is a sort of make or break game for him? Do you still think there's a chance he could stay? Or does it feel like we're going to go into the international break and we will eventually start the process for United's new manager?
I feel like it's a make or break one in terms of the mood around the place. So I think I felt it went after Tottenham. I think that I'm talking fans, I'm talking people that are there and watching it and online in particular as well.
Yeah.
That feels like the point. It went past the point of, okay, Palace game, we saw there was some good things, we just didn't score. But the Tottenham game was just awful, and it felt like it was the end for a lot of people in the even the ones that were back in Ten Hag.
Yeah.
I feel like this game is the people that are still defending him. I think will kind of lose that, and no one would be surprised if he was sacked.
Yeah.
Whether I think that happens or not, I'm not sure because it doesn't sound like all the reports that it is going to be that case, but I do think it's for the mood around the place, for fans and stuff, before it just gets to no one wanting to even watch or go to games. Yeah. I think he needs a result this weekend.
He does need a result, doesn't he? Part of me thinks they might just give him till Christmas, sort of no matter what, just to see. Because the options, the alternatives, none of them are sort of massively stand out. They already spoke to Tuchel, and for one reason or another, that wasn't a thing in the summer. I think if there was someone waiting in the wings, he might be gone. And I still think he probably will be. But I wonder if they'll just be a little bit more lenient with him. Like you said, there's not been these sort of big... When someone's about to get sacked, you see this sort of the turning of the machine, don't you, of like all the rumours and the politics and the players never liked him anyway and he's actually falling out with this guy and this guy and all that sort of stuff that starts to come out when they need to PR their way into sacking someone. I've not really seen that yet. So that makes me think his sack isn't imminent, but I do think if it's an embarrassing performance, if it's a Tottenham-like performance, I think there's no way he stays beyond the next few weeks. If we can put in a good performance and win, or even put in a good performance and draw, I think he might get another couple of weeks. That's as many as I can give him in even my most optimistic of moods. Yeah. Moving on a little bit from the manager, because it's all we've been speaking about, and of course it is because that's the biggest topic, but the players are the ones on the pitch. And this isn't to take away from Ten Hag's responsibility and instilling a certain mindset and tactics into the squad. But do you think there's something on the players for games like this for them to show a little bit of fight and a bit of spirit? Because they, even with no coach, it's a good collection of players, this. It's not... In no planet are they bad enough to get relegated, for instance. They're probably, at their best, maybe the third or fourth best squad in the league, somewhere in that ballpark. And yet, they're miles off it. Do you think them themselves need to get together and say, lads, regardless of what's happening with the manager, we've got to show a bit of fight here? Yeah,
I think there's... I've called them in group chats fragile for the past year or so, because... There has been some good moments, there has been some good performances, but it always seems like, you'll go through that stat in terms of how quickly we concede one after another, how quickly we concede after, remember the Copenhagen game last year, we were playing really well, Rashford gets sent off for something that isn't a sending off, and then we capitulate. Yeah. There's the bad performances under Ten Hag where we played really quite well against Liverpool for 35 minutes when we got beat 7-0, concede one and it all just goes wrong. Yeah. That happens all the time. Same thing with the Tottenham result is that, we didn't have a good start to that game, but it felt like no one could complete a pass after it. And we've talked, I'm sick of people telling me about pressing systems and inverted fullbacks and all this and why it's wrong that Ten Hag's doing. There's no reason why, as a group of 11 players, they can't just on the pitch kind of go, look, we either need to go all out and do something here and press and really try and win the ball back, or just sit in between us and do it and go against the manager and try and get a result out of this. Because there doesn't seem to be that. And again, the result against Porto and the game against Porto, when you go to 2-1, there's no reason why you don't just go, right, let's just kill it till half-time. Let's just get to half-time, regroup and be all right. But this seems like they just capitulate and, like, you know, daft mistakes. De Ligt volleying the ball up in the air.
Straight up in the air, multiple times as well, yeah.
Just that resulted in chaos, and they end up scoring 30 seconds later. A bit of calm. These are very good players, and I just don't see what happens to them when these little mistakes happen in games. It feels like everything goes wrong.
It's like at Sunday League level, you get bollocked for that.
Yeah.
If me as a centre back at my standard, if the ball's coming to me and I slice it straight up in the air and it bounces back to their team, I might get brought off at half time.
Yeah.
Let alone, you know, one of the best centre backs in the world, or certainly one of the most experienced for his age in the world. Like, it's absurd that they do go through these spells of not being able to put a 10-yard pass, you know, next to each other and build a move out. But like you mentioned about the tactics, it feels like instead of going, actually, this isn't working, we're going to do this instead, what they do is they just do this 70% effort version of what Ten Hag wants, which is worse than anything. Because if you're not fully, like against Palace and against Southampton and against Brighton for the first half and Fulham for certain parts of that game, we saw what it's going to look like if it is to be successful. The opposition couldn't get out their half for certain spells. United made chance after chance after chance. It looked really good, and you can see what it's going to be if it ever gets to that level consistently. It might never do, but you could see what it should be. But then this in middle ground thing is worse than them just rejecting it completely, because you're never near the man to press him. So everyone's got a free pass. You never right up the arse of your attacker because you're not really going for it, so they can receive the ball easily. That's why they're playing through us so easily, because we're seeing like Ten Hag's ideas done to 75% effort. And that's just the worst of all worlds, because it's open and you're still trying to press, but you're not really ever going to do it successfully. You mentioned those stats before, just to run through them quickly. United have conceded 2 goals in a game 31 times since the start of last season. 2 goals or more. United have conceded 3 goals or more 24 times under Erik Ten Hag, which is the most of any Premier League club in all competitions. Just since the start of last season in Europe, United have conceded 2 goals in 4 minutes against Bayern, 2 in 10 against Galatasaray, 2 in 4 against Copenhagen, 2 in 9 against Galatasaray, and 2 in 7 minutes against Porto. That's just in Europe, which we didn't even get out of the group stage, so there's not many games to pick from since the start of last season. Fragile is the perfect word for it, because that's as much mental as it is tactical.
Yeah.
If you concede in these little bang, 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 you've lost the lead, you've lost the lead stuff, that's a mental problem, not just a tactical problem.
And I do think, look, Ten Hag does have to take some of that responsibility.
Yeah, of course he does.
Well. He has to take that responsibility of making sure they're up for it. It's happening too much after half time as well, and things like that. There's all those things that he needs to take responsibility of. It isn't just, you know, the players' fault. They're not doing what Ten Hag says. But at the same time, you know, it's a collective thing of these things shouldn't be happening at the top level, and those stats there. And the worst part about all that probably is that all of those games, we played quite well for a lot of it. You know, the Bayern game for 20 minutes should be 1-0 up, don't score. We're 2-0 up against Galatasaray, concede 2 in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We're 2-0 up against Copenhagen, concede. The goal against Galatasaray at home, where Højlund breaks through and he gets disallowed, I think, for offside, and we all think well in the world, and then just gone capitulate.
Yeah.
It's such an odd scenario to be in.
In United's last 4 away games in Europe, which were against Copenhagen, Galatasaray, Bayern Munich, and Porto, United have scored 3 goals in all 4 of those games and not won a single game.
It's good.
That's no good at all, is it? Let's get into Predict 11s. Let's start with yours, Alex. What do you think Ten Hag's going to do for this? I mean, it's a massive game for him, isn't it? Both in terms of just the opposition generally. Villa are a top team these days, and his career at United. What's he going for?
Yeah, I was so confused with this one, because the way that he's kind of rested people, and the way that Eriksen keeps popping up and stuff, and the way that it seems like Casemiro's out of it and then he's back into it, it was really tough to pick a team. But I think in terms of it, look, I don't think there's too many choices in terms of the back 5. I'd be very surprised if, I know that Maguire came on and scored his goal.
Would he be the one if you had to make a change? Maybe I could see it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But he didn't look fit either. In my, you know, there was that one run, I remember him running back and thought, Johnny Evans is going past you here by a long way. He just didn't look fit at all. So I think he'll stick with that. I've gone with Ugarte and Casemiro mainly because I don't think, if Mainu wasn't fit in midweek, is he fit enough to start this game?
Yeah.
And I just think maybe he just goes a little bit safe here and goes for 2 more defensive midfielders.
Okay. I
think Bruno plays, for as much as people will want him out of the team and want that, I do think Bruno's going to play. And then I think with, the high line that Villa have, I think he's just going to have to go for the pace that we've got in terms of Rashford, Højlund and Garnacho. The weird thing with Rashford coming off at half-time makes me think that he'll start. And the same thing with Garnacho, only getting a half. I still think that he's trying to get both of them into the team. And it's so difficult to pick at the minute. I could see him having Mainu and Eriksen like he did against Southampton, confusing everything. I could see him starting Xerxes again. But gone for a probably more defensive team and probably one that's going to sit and play on the counter a bit more. I was
going to say, the pace of that front three and the lack of kind of like interplay and build-up in that front three suggests counter-attack, direct balls over the top. Mine's slightly different. I'm hopeful we'll make some tweaks. The back five, I agree with you. Maguire's the only one that might sneak in, but I don't think he will. And I think De Ligt and Martinez could do with another game to sort of put that behind him a little bit. I'm hoping that Mainu's fit. And just for full clarity, we're recording this before the Ten Hag's press conference, so we might know one way or another if he is available or not. I think Ugarte has to start. I think we need his legs in there. I know he's not particularly quick, but he's just got a better engine and more sprinting, more movement in him than Casemiro and Eriksen have. And again, I'd stick with Bruno as well. Front three, I quite like the front three against Porto, actually. I thought it's that first half, obviously, before Rashford came off. I like Ahmad and his hold-up play. The ball sticks to him better than anyone else. Højlund looked good, direct, good runs into the box. And Rashford, I feel like he defensively, if you can start tracking back a bit more effectively and stop some of those crosses coming in that we saw against Porto, I thought on the front foot against 20 he looked really good, and against Porto he looked really good, so I'd keep him in as well. But similar size, it just depends on, do you want a bit more control like maybe with my team, or a bit more counter-attack with your team? We'll have to wait and see what it goes for, really, won't we?
Because I think it could go either way. It's whether he could flip it completely and go back to, if he's got Mount fit, is he going to try and go back to what he'd started the season with?
That's true, a little diamond in the middle.
And just trying to really stay compact with it all. But it is just a confusing one. You mentioned there De Ligt and Martinez. It was only, a week ago where we all went against Crystal Palace. We've got it now. This is, we've finally got a team that's...
what was that, 10 days ago?
10 days ago, we've got a team that can defend. We've got a team that does this really well. We're looking forward to seeing how this progresses, and then all of a sudden we're going, De Ligt isn't quick enough, Martinez is on a bad run of form, and we need to rip it up and start again. So it just seems so strange how it's swung within 10 days.
I mean, luckily we've got one of the most informed teams in Europe to play in Aston Villa. Let's get into them a little bit. They're 5th in the league, 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Great start to the season. Not all of those wins have been sort of batterings. There's been some late goals. Only one of the wins has been by 2 goals or more. So it's not like they've come in and they've been thundering and battering everyone, but it's their best start to a season since 08-09. So they're doing very well, and also just beat Bayern Munich at home, which is one of their probably best wins in about 40 years since they won the European Cup. So they're doing well this season, aren't they? 13 points and a win against Bayern Munich. They're not a fun team to face at the minute, are they?
Not really. They are. I can't say they're flying because they drew 2-2 with Ipswich, and I think this is one of the differences in terms of being Aston Villa and being Man United, is that 2-2 against Ipswich kind of got swept under, going, Villa have still had a good start to the season. They've, they've drawn a game, but that would be the end of the world if United can see the last-minute equaliser to a team that hasn't won yet in the Premier League. What shows me with those results is they are conceding goals. 2 against Ipswich, 2 against Everton, 2 against Arsenal, conceded to Leicester, conceded to West Ham.
Teams just one clean sheet as well.
People aren't playing very well there. But then again, I watched them against Bayern Munich and thought they were unbelievable in terms of how they defended and what they did in the edge of their box. So it's not a good time to play. I don't think it's a good time for United to be playing anyone, to be honest. No. I think every team you look at, you go, oh, they could do something against us. It's one of those where we're in that scenario. Yeah. But I do think that, look, we've got a good record at Villa Park.
Yeah.
I think we've won the last 4 there, or against Unai Emery. I don't think he's got the best record against us. But I do think that, they're going to be a tough team to play against. They've got goals in them, which is a frightening thing, especially United at the minute.
Speaking of goals, John Duran scored in his last 4 games at Villa Park. He's got a goal every 43 minutes in that stadium since he's arrived in the Premier League. and Ollie Watkins has also got 4 goals this season. So they've got 2 in-form strikers, John Duran off the bench typically, Watkins stretching, playing in behind, doing all the things that our defence hates at the minute. It could be a disaster, this one. With all that in mind, everything we've considered, I want your score prediction in just a second, but before that, go to paddockmatchday@gmail.com and email us your score prediction. Send a video of yourself in landscape on your phone. What do you think the game is going to go like? Send it over and we'll use it as part of our build-up for the watch-along on Sunday. Thank you to everyone who's been sending those in as well recently. They've been absolutely fantastic. So keep those up. Thank you very much. You've had a bit of time to think there now, Alex. What's the score going to be on Sunday?
I think there's going to be goals. That's
Great.
my one thing.
It's not 0-0.
It's not 0-0.
That.
I'm going to go 2-2.
Yeah.
I just think that there's going to be a lot of goals. I don't think we get beat. For some reason, I don't think we get beat. I don't know why. There's no logic behind us not getting beat. But I think 2-2, I think similar game to Porto. I feel like we score early. Villa come back into it. And either we can see the late equaliser or get the late equaliser to kind of really annoy us. It's probably going to happen.
Yeah. I don't know what it is and what's wrong with my brain, but I think we're going to win. I don't think they've been as good as their results suggest. They were very good against Bayern Munich, I'll give them that. But the other games I've seen them this season, they haven't been completely convincing for me. No. They were 2-0 down against Everton, late equaliser against Ipswich. It took a late goal, I think, was it the West Ham game on the opening day as well?
Yeah.
Late goals, and it's sneaky, one goal lead against Leicester, and like you mentioned, only the Wolves game did they actually put a little bit of pacing on them, but I think we can exploit them. I'm going to go 2-1 United.
Right.
And I'm not sure if I actually believe that, but that's what I'm going to say. Get your score predictions in the comments as well, and your team predictions as well. We'll be here for the watch-along tomorrow, so make sure you check that out as well. Thank you, Alex, for coming on.
No worries.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us at home. We'll see you in a bit.